evening, everyone. If you will join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we will begin our meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good evening, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for those who are watching remotely. We have a couple of board members who couldn't join us tonight, but I'm sure they will catch up with us shortly. So this evening, the Board of Education is recognizing our All-State Music students. The students earned All-State Music honors during the All-State Festival concert at the Missouri Music Educators Association Conference in January. So at this time, I'd like to invite Jeff Lackey, our Coordinator of Fine Arts, to join us at the podium for the recognition of our All-State Music students.
Good evening, President Jeff Todd, Vice President Debbie Hopper, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Marty, Ms. Stover, and all others present this evening. My name is Jeff Lackey. I'm the Coordinator of Fine Arts for the Parkway School District. I'm here to recognize 31 extraordinarily talented and dedicated Parkway High School musicians who were selected as All-State Music students for the 2024 Missouri All-State Band, Jazz Band, Choir, and Orchestra Ensembles. The All-State Ensembles performed at the Missouri Music Educators Conference last month before an appreciative audience of music educators, administrators, and parents. Auditions for these positions are very serious and competitive. In order to be selected as an all-state musician, students had to first be chosen to perform at their local ensemble, and then their auditions had to be performed with technical skill and musicianship that made them stand out from among other hundreds of students across the state of Missouri for the same seats. These students have demonstrated the highest level of musical competency and have shown a personal commitment to artistic excellence. I'd like to thank their music teachers for motivating, nurturing, and guiding these students into the skilled and accomplished musicians they are today. And of course, I'd like to thank their parents for their continued support and motivation along the way. I will now introduce this year's All-State Music students by ensemble that they were selected for, but before I do, we have many students that could not make it tonight. They have solo ensembles, performances, rehearsals, etc. that has been in conflict. We'll go ahead and read their names, but any student that is here today, I invite you to come up and be greeted by the Board of Education. So in alphabetical order, I'll start with All-State Band. Beginning with All-State Alto Saxophone, South High, we have Sophie Chronologis. Say that again, sorry. Sophie Crujalis. I'm sorry, Sophie Crujalis. Go ahead. All-State Flute from South High, I have Ella Mitaxoff. All-State Flute from South High, Haley Parks. All-State Oboe from West High, Kara Purdy. All-State Clarinet from West High, Andrew Song. All-State Alto Saxophone from Central High, Hannah Wolkowitz. We had one student make the All-State Jazz Band this year, All-State Tenor Saxophone, Central High, Zach Bonnet. Our next ensemble was the All-State Choir. All-State Bass from South High was Tyler Gregg. All-State Alto from Central High, I have Izzy Herberger. Alternate Bass from North High, Ellie Jones. All-State Tenor, Central High, Jaden Jones-Brown. Honorable Mention Soprano, North High, Emily Koo. Honorable Mention Bass from Central High, Chance McCline. All-State Tenor from Central High, Paige Poromsik. All-State Tenor from Central High, Caleb Powell. Honorable Mention Tenor, West High, Emmett Vernon. And finally, we have our All-State Orchestra students. All-State Violin 1, Central High, Angel On. All-State Cello, West High, Akil Benejri. Honorable Mention Violin, South High, Ella Boekman. Honorable Mention Violin, Central High, A.J. Eisenberg. All-State Viola, Central High, Macy Heimberger. Honorable mention violin, West High Felicity Jackson. Honorable mention violin, West High Anish Jindal. Honorable mention viola, Central High Tarini Karnati. All-state violin, Central High Asher Cole. All-state violin 1, Central High Grace Lee. All-state cello, Central High Rachel Lee. Honorable mention cello, Central High was Hannah Matthew. All-state violin 1, Central High Aiden Moon. All-state bass, West High Eric Oswald. And all-state viola, West High Joy Shin. Before I go, I'd like to acknowledge the music teachers for the work with these students tonight by having them stand if they're present tonight. Yes, we also did have a performance from our West Middle Orchestra students who performed at the All-State Music Conference in front of the same audience, who did a wonderful job. Also, just a really kind of neat, we don't typically honor them here, but yeah, they did a great job. Thank you. So congratulations to our 2024 Music All-State students.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I can tell you that probably all of the board members have heard some of you or all of you at one time or another, and we are always impressed with the music you all are able to create. And so we just encourage you to keep it up. And parents, you have some outstanding students here, so we really appreciate you sharing a few minutes with us tonight so we can recognize your accomplishments. So congratulations. And we'll take a couple of minute break, and we'll resume the meeting shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all, and now we will continue with the agenda. Next up, I have 7.0, which is additions, corrections, and/or modifications to the agenda. Those include 7.01, addendum to agenda item 11.14, approval of personnel items, 7.02, addition of agenda item 11.37, approval of gifts from the public, Central High. And 7.03, agenda item 11.32, approval of student threatened suicide assessment management tool, new contract added. Next up is 8.0, our public comment section. It's during this time that we provide an opportunity for citizen comments in an effort to maintain an open and respectful dialogue with our community. Public comment session is not the appropriate forum for addressing individually identifiable student and/or personnel matters. Therefore, due to privacy laws protecting students and employees, comments about these matters should not include personally identifiable information about particular students or employees. Members of the public, staff, and students are encouraged to utilize established policies and procedures for offering suggestions or addressing concerns and complaints prior to bringing this issue before the board. Please be mindful that the meetings of the board, including your statements at the podium, are broadcast and that you are responsible for any public comments you make. In lieu of a public statement, you may choose to submit your comments to the board in writing. Also, due to the time constraints and the need to complete the primary responsibilities of our meeting agenda, we cannot respond during the meeting, so you will receive a response from us in writing. We're always available to have an open dialogue outside of our meetings and can be reached by email or phone using the contact information on the Parkway website. Tonight, I believe we have 13 speakers. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes once they get to the podium. I'll call on you in order that you have signed up, and before you begin sharing your comments with us, I just ask that you introduce yourself and state your relationship to Parkway or with Parkway. And of course, in fairness to our speakers and to keep our meeting running as efficiently as possible, I will ask the audience to refrain from applause after each individual speaker, and we'll certainly recognize all the speakers at the end. So at this time, and I'll do my best to pronounce names correctly, and I apologize if I don't. I will call several at a time so that you know you're coming up, except for the very first person. And that is Josh Jones. He'll be followed by Tom Walker and then Melissa Jones Copeland. Good evening.
Let's go. All right. My name is Joshua Jones. I'm on the Board of Trustees of the Oakland subdivision that funnels into Sorrento Springs, which then funnels into Southwest Middle. We had a trustees meeting the other night where I had mentioned the proposed building of an early childhood center in between Wren Hollow and Southwest Middle, and to come to find out that nobody knew about it. To me, if I was to tout a need for an early childhood center in an area that desperately needs it, that's going to house 300 students and 150-something jobs, I think that would be a PR gold mine. We're going to change things. We're going to build the infrastructure to help young children in our neighborhoods, yet nobody knows about it. My question to the board would be is, why is that? You're less than a month away from potentially breaking ground, but yet in Manchester, the minimum requirements for a traffic study to help increase utilities infrastructure, the minimum requirement is that you only need to provide a traffic study. There's no amount of time, there's no format, there's no video, sensors, what have you. You guys did a 2-day traffic study from the 13th of December to the 15th. You guys want to almost double the capacity of students coming in, double the capacity of workers and employees on the site, and you guys did it for 2 days. So as a recommendation from the subdivision that I commute and I represent, we are requesting that Parkway pay for a 90-day traffic study that includes Wren Avenue, Cardinal Avenue, and then Canary Avenue, because not all the parents and students and teachers are coming in from Wren Avenue. The congestion is absolutely terrible. Many of you have been out. I know people from the local municipality have been out, and it's a disaster. So my recommendation would be to you guys to do a proper study, give us the proper data, and then if the data suggests, build your school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Tom Welker.
Good evening. My name is Tom Welker. I live in 507 Audubon Place Court near Wren Hollow Elementary School. As a spokesman for many of the residents and neighbors in that immediate area, I'm here to ask you for your support. We want you to know first and foremost, we support Parkway's needs, especially as it relates to the students. But our biggest concern is the Parkway School District and the Early Ed Center that is being done. Now, I asked the board if they would consider on their own time Researching the information provided by the Parkway School District Early Childhood Demographic and Market Study on boarddocs.com. Page 41 outlined some interesting weaknesses, and page 44 outlined some even more interesting threats, many of which I think you will find most interesting. As part of this, I'm concerned and questioning why the locations of South Middle School and maybe Oak Brook were not considered as part of this. You currently have Wren Hollow and Southwest on a dead-end road. My recommendation to the board and to Manchester is, why can't you consider retail establishment locations? There's a Best Buy and a Bed Bath & Beyond 300 feet from Manchester City Hall. I work projects in a big corporation where we lease buildings on a 10-year lease, bundle in a tenant improvement package, get everything we need, and move as we go. And at the end of that lease, if the district still needs it, you renew it. If you don't, you walk away. If population declines in the area, you're going to be facing another empty building and nothing to support it. My next question would be, what are the capacities versus the current enrollment? In closing, I would ask, is there redistricting being considered? Because I've heard that West students are now moving into South Middle. That raises a concern. Will Hannah Elementary end up being forced to go into the Southwest system? I'm not sure, but that would increase the load moving in through that area. I do have some handouts I would like to provide you. I think it's some good questions that will allow you an opportunity to think about some of the things that were presented.
Next up is Melissa Jones Copeland, followed by Randy Welker and Kristen Mayo.
My name's Melissa Jones Copeland. I live at 610 Wren Avenue. I am actually Southwest Middle and Wren Hollow's closest neighbor. I am a property owner of 3 acres. I'm in favor for an early childhood center, but not in a different location. I believe that if this is a 3-school multi-campus, all traffic in and out to Sulphur should be placed on Parkway property, and all parking included. I asked for a stop sign, if not, for all the traffic leaving Parkway property coming onto Wren Avenue, which would be 15 feet past my driveway. There is so much traffic. Canary and Wren is just unreal with children crossing. I believe a traffic lights be installed at Wren and Canary, whether this school is put in or not. It's not if, but when a fire or accident during peak traffic hours, an active shooter, no way in, no way out. I believe there is a need for a 90-day independent traffic study and that the findings be shared. I have some questions for you. I've given them to the Board of Aldermen last night at their meeting. I would ask that you help them answer them. I would like to know the answers. This is a very serious problem. The most important thing is the green space for our children in our neighborhood. Tonight when I left, there was baseball practice up in the field. You're taking away a small space from a neighborhood, Southwest and Wren Hollow. There are other alternatives. The green space and safety are the most important things for our neighborhood and our children.
Thank you. Next up is Randy Welker.
Good evening, my name is Rendy. I am a graduate of Parkway South High School and a current resident on Wren Avenue. When I was a student at Wren Hollow and Southwest Middle, my siblings and I were walkers. We didn't ride the bus due to the proximity of living so close to school. We enjoyed walking to school, but we always had to be aware and present given the dangerous and busy street and the Wren Avenue intersection that buses and cars tend to fly down. There is no sidewalk down the entire road that leads to Southwest Middle. Buses and cars race down the street, avoiding the stop signs and traffic laws, before school in the morning and at the end of the day, which makes it very dangerous for residents to exit the streets. When I moved on to South High, I started driving, and my mom had warned me when I learned to drive that one of the most dangerous intersections near us was the one by Wren Hollow. One of my favorite parts about my time at Southwest Middle was being able to have gym class outside. With weather permitting, Mr. Ribeiro, Mr. Houchins, and Ms. Tucker would always take us up to the field to play flag football, soccer, and ultimate frisbee. We use this field for intramural sports as well, as this is the only green space Southwest Middle has for its students. As a substitute teacher and having completed the Parkway Spark teaching and learning program, I have had countless hours firsthand of what students deal with in the classroom and how it benefits them to get outside. Being able to get outside and exercise improves students' productivity and benefits their mental health. Now more than ever, everything is focused on technology and students are lacking being outside. Not having the green space at Southwest Middle will diminish student health and learning as well as severely impact their mental health. Building the center in this location will not only kill and reduce the ecosystem and surrounding wildlife, but severely impact the students' mental health without the green space, as well as the community and the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Kristen Mayo, followed by Kira Rhodes and Maxwell Mayo.
Hello, my name is Kristen Mayo. I'm a resident of Manchester and I reside near Wren Hollow and Southwest Middle School. I am a mother to 4 children who walk and ride their bikes to school and a Parkway School District elementary teacher. I'm here to express my concerns about safety in regards to the new early childhood center being built between our 2 schools. This area is already overwhelmed with school traffic. Each morning, students who live within a mile of the school walk or ride their bikes. There are no buses to transport these students, as there is a shortage of bus drivers. It's an already dangerous road and crossing area for these students. You will hear my son speak about his friend being hit on his bike last year. The bike tire was completely bent and damaged. We're lucky that the boy jumped off in time. He saw the car coming and jumped off in time and was fine. But I was the first person that Dr. Werner called. She was the principal at the time. She asked me if my Maxwell had been hit by a car. She knew he rode his bike to school, as she saw him most mornings on her way to work. My heart stopped and I panicked, and thankfully it was not our son, and even more so thankfully it was not that the boy was okay and paying attention. With safety already being a concern in this area, why does Parkway deem this location the best to build a new center? I agree that the south area of the district needs a new early childhood center, but at the risk of our students' lives, this is not the place to build. At what point does the city and the school district take our concerns for student safety seriously? I'm worried it will take a death before the community members' voices are heard. We are also worried about the green space that would be lost in Parkway if Parkway built the ECC Center in this location. You would be taking away all of Southwest Middle School's green space. They will not be able to play sports outside for PE as well as other school activities. At the city board meeting last night, it was said that one reason Oakbrook's land will not be used is because Parkway does not want to take away the outdoor space for the elementary students. Wren Hollow uses those fields that will be taken out for extra, they use those fields. They use them for extra recess, for sports, as well as for field day. To accommodate the extra traffic, would Wren Hollow be increased to a 3-lane road? That would mean decreasing the size of the playground as well as taking out the fields in the back. This is the same reason Oakbrook was not chosen for this center. Please consider not placing that early childhood center there.
Thank you. Next up is Kira Rhodes.
Good evening, Dr. Marty and members of the board. My name is Kira Rhodes, and I am a senior as well as the president of the theater department at South High. I want to start by saying thank you to all members of the board present tonight and Mrs. Forrest James for all the wonderful opportunities I have had to prepare myself for my future career in theater. South's theater department is truly a supportive one that I am proud to have been a part of over these last 4 years. However, as someone who is going to college to pursue a career in technical theater, it is worrisome that the facilities of the Parkway South High Theater are not properly preparing me for to be a confident and capable member of my college community. Due to our lack of space to build scenery for our shows, I have never been provided to build a set at the college level. While college is meant to be a learning experience, I will still be expected to come in with a certain level of knowledge, as many other careers would also dictate. Furthermore, while in discussions with a South alum currently in college for technical theater, he noted that one of the biggest things his high school education was lacking was lack of fly system and rigging. Fly systems are found in every Rockwood high school, as well as many other high schools in St. Louis. The benefit of having fly systems is you can hang lights, set pieces, and sometimes even people up above the stage. It is almost impossible, according to rigging professionals, to put one of these into South, as our space is so weird. Because students throughout Parkway don't have access to fly systems, we are all at a serious disadvantage when it comes to learning key elements of our potential future careers. I truly believe Parkway is one of the best school districts in St. Louis, but our theater spaces don't necessarily reflect that. We know there are so many important matters that require your time and energy, and we want to thank you for all you already do, but we know it's hard to fix an issue you aren't aware of. Thank you so much again for your time, and have a good evening.
Next up is Maxwell Mayo, be followed by Kendall Mayo and Annabelle Rademeyer.
Hello, my name is Maxwell Mayo. I'm 14 years old and I go to Parkway Southwest Middle School. Today I'm here to talk about the early childhood center that Parkway wants to build in between Wren Hollow and Parkway Southwest Middle. I just wanted to inform you guys that we do actually use this field for games like flag football, ultimate frisbee, and some other games that the school has made up. Also, the traffic there is already not very good, and I heard that you guys only did 2 days of studying it. So usually during after school, me and my friends usually ride down the road to go behind the school and play in the woods or on that field that I mentioned earlier. I also heard that last night when we were talking at the Board of Aldermen that it was the space behind Oak Brook was not being used because the elementary school students needed it for green space, but also Wren Hollow does too. That's all I have.
Thank you. Next up is Kendall Mayo.
Hello everyone, my name is Kendall Mayo and my address is 513 Aubon Place Court. My name is Kendall Mayo and I go to school at Wren Hollow. Parkway shouldn't build the early childhood center between Wren Hollow and the middle school. Children are already scared enough with the amount of traffic and crossing the crosswalk with the cross guard there. There is already a lot of traffic and the traffic could go onto the main road and hold up even more traffic. People get distracted and something bad might happen. The early childhood center will have people coming in all through the day. Me and my brothers walk to school every day. It's going to get more and more dangerous, and we use that field for extra recess and field day. Me and my friends like to go on walks, but we probably won't be able to because of how much traffic there will be. And we use that field almost every day. Our whole elementary school uses that field. Please don't build that early childhood center. It would take away our happiness.
Thank you. Next up is Annabelle Rademeyer, followed by Tanner Roth and Audrey Vineyard.
Hello, Dr. Marty and members of the board. My name is Annabelle Rademeyer, and I am a junior at Parkway South High School. I have been involved with the theater department since freshman year, and this has led me to feel a sense of community and connection in my school. My teacher, Ms. Forrest James, spends a lot of time making sure that the theater program is fun and inclusive for everyone. Unlike some of the school sports where only a select number of people make the team, anyone can be involved in theater. There are nearly 100 students that have shown interest or participated this year. That's 1 in 16 students at South. As you can see, this is a very impactful part of our school. The issue I was hoping to address today is that our theater and other theaters in Parkway are outdated. We just wrapped up a musical and it was a huge success, and the seats were full each night. Unfortunately, more than half the audience had poor sight lines due to the outdated layout of the space. Also, due to the size of the stage, we are limited to around 25 actors per show. This reduces opportunities for more student involvement. Additionally, our amazing band has to play in a cramped loft space where the audience cannot see or fully appreciate all of the amazing work they put into our shows. Finally, the space is also in need of repairs. There are leaks in the ceiling, and we did not have heat for a couple of weeks before our biggest show. I ask you to please allocate funding to improve each of the theaters throughout the district, as these are important places for many of the students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is Tanner Roth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Tanner Roth, and I'm a sophomore at Parkway South, and I'm currently the co-underclassman at large of the Parkway South Theater Department. I'm here to talk about how our theater spaces on a district level are not sufficient enough to actively and effectively represent theater arts. What I truly love about theater is that every single school in this district is so incredibly passionate about what they do. Mrs. Forrest James and the teachers are so resourceful and determined, and we have worked through problems tirelessly and with great reward. Although there are some issues regarding not our departments, but our spaces themselves. For example, Parkway Central has no pit. The band is forced to perform backstage. North does not have a sufficient audience size. West has incredibly small dressing rooms, and most of the Parkway schools do not have sufficient stages to produce shows effectively. Parkway South specifically has no fly space or wing space, meaning that we cannot store things above or to the sides, making it harder to produce shows. Our stage is neither a proscenium stage or a thrust, it is a mix in between. We cannot fit more than, as Mrs. Radmeyer had said, we cannot fit more than 25 people on our stage, and that is limiting opportunities for people because we cannot have a large cast. I am asking that the fine arts and theater arts specifically are placed on your plans for change. Every Parkway school deserves their own performing arts place, and they deserve to have just as much as the surrounding districts, Rockwood, Ladue, Kirkwood, and Pattonville. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you all at future shows.
Next up is Audrey Vineyard, followed by Ben Thompson.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the Parkway Board of Education. My name is Audrey Vineyard. I'm a senior at Parkway South High. I would like to thank you for your time. I want to speak again, like they said, on our current theater in regards to the Fine Arts Department. This theater is over 48 years old, and as the number of students have increased, as well as extracurriculars and credits, such as fine arts, we need an update. It has not been updated to the current needs of our faculty and students, such as there is not enough space to have our band, orchestra, and choir concerts. I've always cherished our theater because it has held so many fond memories, but our theater can be, as an audience member and especially as a performer, confining. Even more so when there are a lot of instruments, stands, and chairs that have to go on stage. An orchestra student told me that when the entire orchestra performs, they don't all fit on stage. Some have to play in the audience and some have to play in the loft, which is not ideal. Also, with only a few entryways to the theater, it's hard to transport all the instruments and equipment needed. The same thing applies for the band who have to play in the loft for our musicals. My friend in band that recently played for the musical told me that it's really small, only holds one light, and overall not a good performing space. Lastly, it's also a struggle for choir members. I have done choir for all 4 years in high school, and it has always been a challenge to perform in the theater, especially when the choirs all perform together. There is not enough seats for everyone. Our last winter choir concert was sold out. We had to dismiss people that wanted to see their loved ones perform. There is also little air circulation, which we perform in robes and use bright lights, which can cause the heat to feel sweltering with no air. And I hope you review all the challenges brought forth by the other speakers in your plan for the future. I know these plans will take time, but I hope that these issues remain relevant to the board. Thank you for your time.
Next up is Ben Thompson.
Good evening, folks. My name is Ben Thompson. I'm one of the lead custodians at Sorrento Springs Elementary, and I've been employed for around the past 19 years, all at Sorrento Springs. But for the past 4 or 5 years, work duty has increased tremendously, as you all have known with all the shortages that we face throughout the district. We've got a crew that's been working day and night, weekends, closed, Parkway days. We just want to say that it's just time for a retainment. What can you all offer the workers that's got that kind of vested time in and the commitment to the district? I know we've got a number of workers. We don't need to outsource for any other companies to come in and help, but I'm sure that if we were offered something, a a better wage compensation. We would have workers that can help out at all of these schools. That's just basically one of our main topics of concern. As like I said, I've been all around the district. I've worked in every Parkway building. I've gotten to know tons of families, tons of administrators, teachers, and this is one of the main, without us providing this kind of service, where would you be? And that's what we want you guys to understand. So what can you do to help us? Thank you.
Thank you. And then I also had a duplicate name. I had Kristen Mayo listed twice, and so I skipped the second one, but it was the same address. But in looking at the rest of the information, there was a Phil Mayo attached. Did you intend to speak? Yes. Okay, come on up.
All right, good evening. My name is Phil Mayo. As you've heard from my wife and a couple of my kids, we actually have 4 children that all go to Parkway schools, Wren Hollow, Southwest Middle, and then next year the South High School. They walk, they ride their bikes. We live right across the school from, right across the street from Wren Hollow. But kind of to add what to some of the others have said, our main concern is the safety. You know, years ago, traffic was so bad on Wren that they removed the cut through to the high school because I understand a kid was actually hit and killed. So my thought is, if we're taking steps to decrease the traffic, why go back to, you know, take steps to increase it again? Also, again, the concern that was mentioned earlier is the green space. This is the only green space that the middle school has. The elementary school uses it as well. And in a time when we're preaching mental health, I don't understand why we think it's appropriate to take that away from those students. And then lastly, something that was addressed earlier as well is the lack of information. You know, most people did not know this was happening. We heard it just through word of mouth. Supposedly there were some surveys that were done. I'd be interested to know when those surveys occurred, what neighborhoods were surveyed, how many people were actually surveyed. I work from home. No one knocked on my door. No one left any information. I would have been happy to do a survey. And lastly, yeah, just I would be interested to understand why there hasn't really been any transparency on this. Thank you.
Again, thank you for everyone who spoke tonight. As I mentioned before, you will receive a response from the board in writing in the near future. Next up, may I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Education as scheduled for February 21st, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The next regular board meeting will take place on Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, beginning at 7 p.m. here at the Parkway Welcome Center. We'll move on to board and superintendent reports.
Thanks for everybody who came out tonight, voiced their opinions on various topics. We appreciate you guys coming to the school board meeting. On a somber note, just make sure we have our hearts and thoughts with Mason Ridge families, the community, and the administration there. A lighter note then, trying to back off a little bit. Last night I had the opportunity to attend the dyslexia simulation, and I missed it last year, and none of the board members went last year, and I appreciate the both Parkway and SSD coming together to provide that simulation for everybody to kind of really experience what it is to have dyslexia. And I would encourage everybody next year to take that opportunity and really learn and realize some of the challenges some of our students have in trying to learn with dyslexia. And then lastly, I'll just kind of say, I thoroughly enjoyed the Mean Girls performance.
First off, I want to echo what Matt said regarding all the speakers tonight. We really appreciate you coming out. We hear you, we listen, and you will get a response. Also, on a somber note, there have been a few tragedies that have happened in the Parkway community recently, and I've just seen personally how amazing our teachers, administrators, how they make everyone as comfortable as possible. They reach out, and I know we've talked a lot about mental health. They provide a ton of resources for anybody that needs them, so just keep that in mind. On a lighter note, some of the things that happened in between the last board meeting and this board meeting, even though it's the shortest month of the year, it is packed. We did have the State of the District. I hope some of you were able to attend. It was a great kind of round table where we got to go to different rooms and find out different things that are going on in the district. I got to see my daughter in the 4th grade strings concert. She's a cello player. It's the most cellos I think I've ever seen. They did a great job. And then earlier this morning, had a chance to go to the West High Special Olympics. It is always one of my favorite activities to go to, whether it's at any of the high schools. It truly is remarkable to see how much fun the athletes and their buddies are having. And it just shows the camaraderie that is at Parkway. So it was another great month, and hope everyone's enjoying the cold as it's going away now. So.
Yeah, that's right, Jeffrey. Past couple days have felt so nice and spring-like. I'm reminded that we're kind of in the home stretch of the academic year. Warmer months, summertime is not in the too distant future, and that reminds me of the really vibrant year of academics and extracurricular activities we've had in Parkway, and I always enjoy watching and taking part in as much as I can, just like the rest of the board does. Let's see, just like Matt said, I'm going to be taking part in some theater this Sunday. Going to be going to the Parkway Central showing of Addams Family with my 2 little kids. They're excited for that, and so am I. Let's see, over the past month, Debbie Hopper and I, in an effort to better understand how some of the kids who have to learn in a more alternative setting go about their daily education gathering, we went to the ADC and saw some of the resources they have at their disposal and some of the challenges that they face, and that was really educational. I'm glad we have that for kids who have to take advantage of it. And let's see, that's it. Debbie?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed that tour as well. It's located at on the same campus at Fern Ridge High School for our students that are receiving out-of-school suspensions, and we wanted to get a deeper dive look into how their education is continuing in that process along those ways. So that's what we did on that day. Today, as was mentioned, I did also attend the West High Special Olympics. My daughter was involved in that as well, so it was a rare privilege that I was allowed to go there with her presence. And I have to tell you, as was alluded to already, in the midst of all of the death and destruction and tragedies that are going on around the world and this country and even here locally and even within our own district, it was so refreshing to see these kids during Special Olympics coming together with our students as their buddy. And it was just, I got teary-eyed a couple of times, and just seeing the camaraderie. And as Dr. McCabe, the principal of West High, said, it's a day of unity and inclusion. And so it was. And I got goosebumps. And it was just so pleasant to be there and to enjoy every moment. I stayed for the entire duration. It was just a remarkable experience. So if anyone, and I've attended the Special Olympics at the other high schools as well, as the same experience. It is just so heartwarming and, goosebump moments, as some people said, and it was a nice opportunity to get to talk to some of the special ed teachers that were there. And so the kids just had a ball, especially at the DJ corner and where they got to dance. They go and spend different time at different areas. And the basketball that took place between the West High students and the Rittner students was out of this world. And so it was very exciting. These kids can really shoot some hoops. So that was a lot of fun. And I have been going to a lot of other basketball games with students at West, and so that's been a tremendous amount of fun. I'm just so very proud of our students and our families here in Parkway. Lots of opportunities to do good things here. I also have been involved in the St. Louis PLC Legislative Advocacy meetings that have been taking place, and most recently, efforts to get information to our legislators about some of the bills that are going before the state Congress, both our House and our Senate. Most recently, one of the bills is about open enrollment, where students across the state can attend any school that they want to. And so, as you have seen in our board docs, if you looked at our materials in advance, Parkway has a resolution opposing open enrollment because we want to preserve our taxpayer dollars to serve our taxpayer families. And it was very unclear as to where we would not get funding for this. And students are able to come here, and then we have to use our taxpayer dollars from Parkway to help fund the education of these students coming in. And so there's $80 million fund that would be set up by the state of Missouri for transportation reimbursement costs between districts and parents that are transporting their students. But we have no idea where is that $80 million coming from? And is that really going to be sufficient throughout the entire state of Missouri? And then next on the agenda is going to be some legislation about vouchers, and this is called empowerment scholarships. And so we're just keeping a very close eye on what's happening, because it really, some of these bills, while the intent may be positive in a way, is very burdensome to public education and to our schools to put forward some of the mandates and regulations that would be in place. So just additional taxing on the school districts that are already being stressed with staff shortages, and then the potential for tax freezes to take place for property taxes. Very difficult time. So we really need to keep a close eye on what our state legislators are up to. And then in addition to that, communications advisory meeting I attended, which was always a great opportunity to talk with our communications experts that are here in the district. And then I also had the pleasure to attend the police and fire chiefs meeting. And Dr. Marty, he's actually wonderful with pulling together our mayors and city administrators as a meeting, and then also with our police chiefs and fire chiefs. And so we had great discussion about supporting Parkway, our SROs, and bringing to light some things that we need to think about. So with our security department, Mike Christian is the director of security here. And so we'll be addressing those concerns there. And then meeting with our nurses association, meeting with our teachers association, so lots going on with that to keep our communications going and contracts being negotiated and things like that. So lots going on in the months of January and February right now.
Thank you. Debbie just went right down my list.
Okay.
But no, they've all been great meetings that we've been engaged in with different groups in our community, and including PTO leaders. We mentioned State of the District. That was a great event, and it was partially, largely, maybe a great event because there were students involved this year. Not only did we have student performances before and after that event, but we also had student presentations in some of the breakout sessions, and it was very impactful to hear from students about how they're affected in the classroom. So that was great. I also attended a performance of Mean Girls at South. Fantastic. I recognize some cast members here tonight that did outstanding jobs. And as a student in theater at West High a long, long time ago, the dressing rooms are exactly the same size. They have not changed, so I remember. They're pretty small. But great opportunity to be there. I also want to mention in our consent agenda tonight, we haven't approved it yet, but I have confidence that it will be, a number of gifts from the public. We get gifts from the public almost every single meeting, and sometimes it's one or two. Tonight, we have the random tuba donation to one of our music departments. But one of the things I wanted to point out is a number of organizations, the Alumni Association among them, who have donated thousands of dollars to the district to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the district. PNEA donated some money, and a bunch of other organizations have. And we're really, the district as a whole is really looking forward to celebrating 70 years of Parkway in another couple of months, and so we appreciate those funds to help us do that. And then, obviously, I mentioned before, we can't address all of the concerns that were shared in public comment, but I will tell you that I have been made aware that on Monday, March 26th, at Southwest Middle School, we're planning basically a community meeting to provide information to address some of the concerns that we heard tonight. Obviously, you'll hear from a response on behalf of the board before then with some of those questions answered. But it'll be an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the process and what's going to be involved in making those decisions, and how we're looking at possibly going forward with the project or not. So, and I think that's about all I've got.
I think it's Tuesday, the 26th.
Is it Tuesday, the 26th?
I think it's Tuesday, the 26th,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Tuesday, the 26th. It's the 26th.
And we'll definitely be promoting that and hopefully we'll have some more information at that time, so. So again, thank you for those of you that spoke tonight, and we'll certainly take some of your thoughts and recommendations. I too attended Mean Girls and had a great evening, and I'm going to be joining Rob on Sunday, and West High School has got their musical on Saturday night, and then next weekend is North, so it's a busy time for our musicals. And I want to just say, as a student stated, it's just wonderful to see the activities that to go into a musical, from the band to the actors, but all the people behind the stage. So it's a wonderful. If you haven't been to a high school musical, I mean, you can pay $100 to go to Fox Theater, but you can spend a couple dollars going to a high school musical, and it's wonderful, wonderful entertainment. The board really covered most of my items. I just wanted to say that last night, if you watch Channel 4, we had a wonderful story on our Spark Teaching and Learning program, Grow Our Own program. Courtney Yeager and her students were recognized, and they are now in a new space. So our Spark program, which had been at Chesterfield Mall, of course, you know, Chesterfield Mall is going to be redone. And so we're in a new space, and it's basically on, if you're on 40 or 6440, it's the Lutheran building. I think it's called the Lutheran building. We're on the second floor. Wonderful new space, and our Spark programs, all except, actually Courtney, that program is still at Highcroft, but we really enjoy that opportunity in that space, and we really want to get the board there to see that new space. We also, and I think Jeff will probably I'll talk about this, that week of March 26th is going to be busy, because the March 27th is a board candidate forum. You're probably going to introduce some candidates here in a bit, but that meeting will be here. That is right before our April 2nd board election, and again, the League of Women Voters put that event on. I too attended the session last night that Matt talked about. I got to tell you, you really appreciate. I too went through the dyslexia, and I was so frustrated. I really have a great appreciation for what children and what educators sometimes need to have to do to try to make learning come alive. So it was a wonderful activity. We had our Summer Expo by a community education program a couple weeks ago as well, and I think again all the board covered all the other items, and thank you again. And I just always say this, but I really appreciate our board being out and about. It was great to see all of you at the Special Olympics today. I know our community really appreciates your activity, your involvement, and I think, again, it shows great support of our community for the work of our teachers and our students alike, so thank you very much.
Do you have an idea how many students? There were a lot of students from multiple schools
Yeah, there was-
around the area.
yeah, there was-
So it wasn't just.
Yeah, there was, there are a lot of our elementary schools, but you said
Mhm.
Rittner, I think Bayless was there, and, yeah, and so.
Riverview Gardens.
Right, River Gardens was there, yeah, so
Mhm,
certainly a lot
mhm.
of schools, and they do
Yeah.
enough of these that, you know, when you have these other Special Olympics, there's other schools involved, and some of our schools go to other locations too, so. I believe, I can't think of her name right now, the woman from SSD said they do 50 Special Olympics in the region. So we do our 4 high schools, but in the region, so, and you're right, the partnership between the mentors and who take great interest in the needs of the children is just wonderful to see. It's really just a wonderful experience. I too can get teary-eyed.
Yeah.
My little Nick.
Right, right.
My
Yes,
little-
yes, yes.
Yeah, I have
Mhm.
a young man that I've known since Mason Ridge days, and he's at the high school now, and just adore that young man. Just adore him.
Thank you. Next up, 10.03 is our Board of Education candidate filing. As you know, there's an election coming up. So 5 candidates have filed for the 2 open positions on the Parkway Board of Education. The candidates in order of filing and as their names will appear on the ballot are, and as I call your name, if you're here, please stand. Matthew Schindler, Kevin Seltzer, Todd Williams, Stacy Meiton, and John Tettinger. The election will be Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. The terms of Matthew Schindler and Kevin Seltzer expire in April 2024. And as Dr. Marty mentioned, right here in this room on Wednesday, get the day right, Wednesday, March 27th, at 7 p.m. will be the League of Women Voters Candidate Forum. Usually lasts about an hour and a half. They'll accept questions from the audience and online, and those questions will be posed to each of the candidates and given the equal amount of time to answer them. So, next up, 11.0 is our consent agenda. We have had an opportunity to review this in the last week or so. So may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in the February 21st, 2024 board materials?
So moved.
Second.
Is there anything to be pulled to action or closed? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 5-0. We have no individual action items, we have no policy review, and no reports. However, we have a couple of work sessions. I'm told they will be not terribly long. I know Dr. Bogus says will not be, but so right now I'd like to introduce Dr. Michael Bogus, our Chief Human Resources Officer, and he is going to talk about the 25-26 proposed academic calendar.
All right. Good evening. Again, where I get the privilege and opportunity to present the 25-26 proposed academic calendar. I see. There we go. One of the things I want to share before we begin is that this is a shared effort, a collaborative process with several members on the district committee. It's teachers, administrators from all levels, the communications department, human resources, TLA, student services, athletics, activities department. We are 21 members strong. And so our journey began in October, where we came together for an initial meeting to gather our hopes and our dreams for what would be the creation of the 2025-2026 calendar. Each member was able to share their thoughts and their hopes for us in the creation of this calendar. That list was then utilized to create a draft version to where a smaller subcommittee worked on that and then presented to the larger group in January. To begin, the proposed calendar meets the PNEA agreement of 191 teacher workdays, as well as 174 student contact days. For this proposal, our scheduled academic hours are 1,077.67, which is over the state minimum requirement of 1044. Per our DESE guidelines, hours of snow makeup time must be built into the calendar, and we've done that. Since 2021-2022, the district has communicated our action plan of taking up to 3 snow days, no school, if needed, allowing both students and staff to enjoy time with their families and decompress. After these 3 days, the district will utilize our approved AMI plan, alternative method of instruction, to conduct learning, virtual learning. While this slide has a lot of information on it, I want to highlight a couple of things. First, and most importantly, I'm pleased to announce that in the 2025-2026 school year, our high school students will be able to take all their final exams before winter break. I know there's probably students at home clapping. This was huge. It was one of the things when we met on that initial list we wanted to make happen. And we'll talk about that a little more in detail later in this presentation. But it's something that our committee is very proud of, that we were able to make it work. Second, you will notice that the approved records days for teachers, per the PNEA agreement, are also provided. A half day is given to all teachers at the end of first and third quarters, and a day and a half is given at the end of each semester, which is quarters 2 and 4. Traditionally, staff have come back to school for a professional development day in January, but this is now a records day on January 2nd. Likewise, at the end of the school year, teachers will have a records day on May 26th. Linked to the half-day records day in October, there is a no-school staff student day on October 20th, which will be labeled as our fall break. Third, teachers shared that they wanted more time at the beginning of the school year for classroom preparation. 2 teacher workdays were added on August 7th and August 8th. Teachers will report to their assigned work locations, and those days will be reserved for self-directed work in their buildings. Finally, on this slide, we will have school in session on April 3rd, which is Good Friday. While we recognize this might be a potential substitute concern, PNEA has agreed to assist with the message of staff attendance on that day. So as we talk about having finals before winter break, I wanted to provide a breakdown of the number of days per quarter and by semester. So the number of days in quarter 1 is 44 days. Number of days in quarter 2 is 40 days, giving semester 1 a total of 84 days. Quarter 3 has 46 days. Quarter 4 has 44 days, providing semester 2 a total of 90 days. That's 174 days for the entire entire calendar. This does translate to a little bit of an uneven semester. Ultimately, the committee decided that the benefit of having finals before winter break, plus the window of standardized testing which occurs during second semester, provide a win-win for both students and teachers. Another change that we are proposing for this calendar is a change in our dismissals. Recently, concerns from both staff and parents have shared that there is confusion in our current early release and half-day schedules. Starting in 2025-2026, we will have one schedule for half-days. Currently, an early release day is a 2-hour release for professional development for teachers within their CLT group, etc. For 2025-2026, that time will be adjusted to a 3-hour window, allowing that extra hour to be utilized for building level professional development, taking away an early release. So in this calendar, we still have 4 full professional development days, and those 7 now half days for professional development are listed here. But as you look at this calendar, they're highlighted in orange. Similarly to our current schedule, our now half days are all on Wednesday minus 1 that falls in February, on February 12th, which is a Thursday. This is linked to the President's Day weekend because February 13th, the Friday, is a no school day for students and a full professional development day for staff, allowing for families to have another long weekend with their children. Last year, one of the board directives was for us to look at election days to where that we would have no students in the building. And so we have done that again for this calendar. For November 4th and April 7th, those election days, to have student safety, because there are multiple people entering our buildings, on voting sites, and on our school properties, both of those days will mirror one another with full-day professional development for staff. To avoid confusion and the original calendar looking too busy and messy, the second page is important dates for teachers. This is located on Inside Parkway for our internal staff. This assists staff in a couple different ways. One, in the bottom corner, it links them to the 25-26 work calendar separated by classification, which outlines contracted work days, contracted paid holidays, and non-paid work days. The second link is to the 25-26 professional development calendar that is located on the Talent Development website. On the bottom right side, we have listed 5, now 6 days where we recognize as religious days that we observe within the district, no tests, no assignments, et cetera, and activities during those days to honor our students that are absent that day. We used to have 4, now we have 5 because Good Friday is linked in there because we will be in school on Good Friday for this calendar year. A lot of information, and so I'll pause to see if there's any questions.
Well, first off, thank you very much. I wish we had more high school students in the room tonight because the faces on you all were, I knew what you were about to say, so I totally focused on them, and it was priceless. I do have a couple of questions. You said we were going to have 84, under this proposed calendar, we'd have 84 days in the first semester, 90 days of instruction in the second semester.
Yes.
But you talked about a win-win for students and teachers. I'm just curious how, and I know you've talked all through this, but how will the teachers that are teaching the same class in first semester and second semester to different groups of students, how will they deliver the same amount of curriculum in 6 fewer days?
So when you look at second semester, they're going to really plan for first semester. Second semester, they have standardized testing, which takes a window to where we have all students taking tests within that bracket, especially at the high school with AP testing and various others. You're really looking at a first semester type of scheduling, as the second semester will be absorbed by those days already out of the classroom where there's no instruction going on.
Okay, thank you. And then second question, why not now? I know there are some challenges. Will you share why we can't just start this now and next school year?
Right, we looked at that. There's a lot of complications. Right now, you'll notice our fall break is only 1 day. Next year's schedule has 2 days already scheduled for fall break. We also have some complications with the actual calendar for the number of days that we are able to start school per the state mandate, that there are not enough days in this current year for next year. I will share that the 26-27 calendar looks a little messy. We've already started talking about that in the committee of trying to figure out ways to make sure that we can continue to have finals before winter break. There is a hope for me and others that the state will eventually lift the mandate of what is the original start date. I'm not holding my breath on that, but we have talked as a committee about what do we need to do to assure that that happens. There's a lot of reasons that I can't make next year's schedule work. Unfortunately, we did spend time. We're excited about the 25-26 and moving forward to continue that charge to have finals before winter break.
Thank you.
I just want to say as a parent, thank you for making the half-day early release day one time. I can tell you for picking up kids that I have gone on the wrong time, certain times. So I appreciate that.
As a committee member, you're welcome.
Mike, the question I have, I know that, I believe seniors take their final exams at a different time and have their last day on a different day than the rest of the students in high school.
At the end of the year.
Correct, at the
Yeah.
end of the year.
Yep.
Can that be recognized on this calendar? Because I don't see it listed. It used to be a long time ago, and I know I think there was a reason why it's not illustrated here.
Yeah, I would say that 2 years out, we always make this calendar. So you're already approving the 25-26 year calendar. Those schedules are created and adhered to by the high school principals as they look at their days. I would say getting too far ahead in that for this, to put it here, to have it board approved and then wait 2 years, there is a little bit of concern there of just what might happen in terms of their days. But they do coordinate together, the high school principals, and talk through that and disseminate that information to parents and students through their newsletters. When we look at this calendar, I think the answer I would give is this is the overall academic calendar for the entire district. There are some changes that occur at each level in each building, and the principals do a nice job of communicating that out. Being the senior finals is one of those pieces, but I could definitely bring it back to the committee to see that piece, but I don't even know if we would be able to project when those finals would be by date at this point. That's a good question.
Okay. I just know when we usually do graduations, that week of, like, the weekend of May 15th. So I know we had to have the finals done before that, so.
But to Mike's point, though, I mean, we don't know if there would be something that we'd have to actually stay in school. Maybe there'd be something, so we don't want to really get ahead of ourselves. If there were,
I understand.
I want to project anything, but if there was a natural disaster or something, we had to keep students in school, I think we want to protect those days. Because right now, yes, we like to get the seniors out early, but maybe we will not be able to.
I mean, a good example would be even today, South High had to close early due to a power outage. I have to adjust the minutes and hours of each building when items like that happen to make sure that we adhere to the state minimum. If we would have a particular issue with a school that would take me below that 1,044, we would have to have some sort of alternative time. Many years ago, we had that at one of our elementary schools where there was a flood and they had to come in on a Saturday near the end of the school year just to get their hours for the state. And so there are always those pieces that occur with power outages, et cetera, today being a good example.
That said, I guess now I'm wondering, given this new second semester calendar, are I'm assuming the seniors are still going to get out sooner, like normal? I mean, pending any other things, but are they going to be able to still get in the amount of curriculum that they need to take their finals? And I guess I sometimes even question why we do that, but anyway, so.
So one of the things I would say with confidence and I'm confident, we had multiple members of the committee that were high school teachers and other individuals that work at the high school level. They showed no concerns regarding that question when we talked about it, because we did talk at length about what would this look like in terms of a disparity between first and second semester, like Mr. Todd shared, with what would that look like in a curriculum piece. But again, as we look at what do we want to accomplish, one of the many statements at the beginning of Hopes and Dreams was, how do we get finals before winter break? And so that came at a couple different costs, if you will, but we managed that through the I would say this proposed calendar, but also in the conversation of what does that look like curricular-wise at all three levels. But the high school shared no concerns regarding that piece.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll ask a biased and a leading question.
Perfect.
With the state mandate on when we can start our classes, that started a few years ago, that took away local control of when we can start our own school year and put us in this tough situation. I would encourage people, if you do want to make sure that 26-27 school year is a clearly balanced school year, to reach out to your local reps, both your state senators and state reps, to do that. My question would be, how difficult is it to work around that law to create these calendars?
That is pretty leading. It's very
be honest.
It's very difficult. I mean, it's very difficult. It's why I can't make next year's calendar work. And so to the question of, what is the capacity to try to make next year's calendar, we just physically can't do it. We're able to do it for this calendar, 25-26, because we had to spend time of looking, what do we give up to get finals before break? We don't have 2 days in fall break, we're going to have a 1-day fall break as a need. And across the board, everybody on the subcommittee viewed that is something needed for students and staff, that 1 day. But it comes at a huge cost, not being able to do what we used to be able to do, to build the calendar around what are our student needs, come first, and then we're now stuck with starting a calendar based on what we're given as a parameter from the state.
I just want to say, I think this committee deserves our congratulations, because if you think about it, and I get a lot of calls about, why don't we get out on Memorial Day? Why can't we start to Labor Day? We need 2 weeks of holiday, we need a spring break, we need more days. You'll notice Mike used the term, this is an academic calendar. So when you think, if that's our basis, we want to talk about student learning and what's good for students, what's good for teachers, because they need some time, they need some prep time, they need to have time to do grading properly. But then you add to it, we just talked about, the state legislature, confines us. Now we have, and rightly so, we have, we want to take care of kids, and there's some mental health needs, so some breaks are important for staff and students. We were very conscious of, we meet with the faith community, and they're we got some issues around holidays or faith days. Then you've got snow days, and I get the question, why don't we immediately go to virtual days? Well, schools do that, but then I would argue we kind of use those 3 days as kind of, as Mike said, kind of a mental health day. The old tradition, we all like those snow days, right? But in some cases, they go right to virtual. So I think it's a balance between what's good for kids, what's good for our educators. We certainly want to recognize families, but it's, again, an academic calendar about how we can design this, and we have to get so many minutes in. We can't start till 2 weeks before Labor Day. We certainly want to recognize the holidays appropriately. We want to be conscious. We do have a very diverse community with many faiths now. So it's a challenge, and that's why I think they deserve, I'm glad I'm not in that committee. Mike's pulled his hair out already, you could see.
Yeah, it's already gone.
I would have pulled my hair out.
No, I will say, I started it because other years, I've never shared who's on the committee. And so when we talked about this, we were very proud of it, and I wanted to showcase those names on the screen. They worked really hard. This is a collaborative effort of 21 of us. I get the luxury to present it, but the work done by that group, I'm very honored to be a part of that. I'm very proud of them, because we spent a lot of time trying to find what is the best calendar for our students. And we started with finals before break. How do then we build it from there? And what is proposed today is that.
And Jeff, to go back to your question, I will tell you, as soon as this gets published, families will begin to put their vacations around. So that's why, we notice we go 2 years out. So we struggled a couple years ago. When we start messing around with the calendar, people already have made plans, whether it's vacation plans or those long weekends. And so we have to be very, very careful. Once it's out there, it's basically the calendar that people are going to begin to plan on. Families got graduations and other things they want to start planning for, and our staff as well.
And our staff as well, because we'll have the 2 days before, what is our traditional 5 days before school starts, August 7th and August 8th, for teachers to be in their classrooms. So many of our teachers come in during those days and work for free. They're in doing all the work and preparing their classrooms, organizing, making copies, doing all the things that they need to do with curriculum. We're actually now providing those 2 teacher work days paid for them to come in, so that there's less stress at the beginning of the year, because they'll have 2 more days to be able to organize and get ready for the start of school. There's a lot of win-wins here. I will share that the only one we were not able to do on that long list was one, or many people shared that they wish that we started the school year not a 5-day week. Instead of starting Monday, we start Tuesday or Wednesday. The struggle to that, as we've just shared, we need every day that I can get once the state allows us to come back to school. I need every day there to be able to make it, to be able to have finals at a right time and not have it so unbalanced. That was the only loss that we were not able, the only item we were not able to win in our creation of this calendar. All the other 20 items we were able to accomplish, which is exciting.
And Mike talked about election days, and that's been something that we've been conscious about for the board. We traditionally have taken off the fall, like now we take off the spring. And I'll just say, superintendents have been really speaking to the election board, saying, could you please take elections somewhere else? And guess what they tell us? Nobody else wants the elections. And you're a government entity, so they're gonna come and be in your schools. we've had several meetings with election board. Nikki works with the election board pretty closely. So, I mean, a lot of our schools are used. We'd rather not. We'd rather, not have people in our schools on election day, even though it's a good democracy, but, with dangers and safety now. So we got the spring election, we got the fall. That takes another day. Like Mike said, that's another couple of days that make it more difficult.
And it's unintended consequences, a great one for voters. I enjoy being able to vote wherever I can go. There's no way to predict now the number of people that are on our sites. Where before, if Central High was a voting place, we knew the number of individuals that could vote at Central High and we could plan accordingly. We don't have any idea how many people will show up on any given election day to vote at the place closest to them, which is a wonderful opportunity, but it provides a challenge for us as a school. And another reason why we really don't want to have kids and there. We still have staff for professional development day, which, I appreciate because then I can go and vote and staff can go vote at their lunchtime and it provides a wonderful opportunity there. But an unintended consequences, again, we just don't know the numbers of people we'll have in each of our election sites.
The other thing, Mike, that I would like to compliment the group on too is coordinating these half-days to other days that may be coming fully off. I know we've been criticized in the past about so many interruptions to the month or to the week, and I appreciate that from a family perspective. So I don't see as many of those. It doesn't seem as I've seen in past years.
There's
so,
less, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. Hopefully that will be recognized and we can feel that within our families as well.
January, Februarys are tough.
Yeah.
It's just, those are the weeks that we don't have always full weeks because of just the holidays and various other things. But we did try to make a concerted effort to help correct that.
I see that. Thank you.
So next month, board will get this as an action item.
Correct. So next month, the board will be able to vote on this, and then we will publish it out to all of our stakeholders.
And then you can start 26, 27.
Already started. So,
Thank you very much. Dr.
thank you.
Okay, next up, I'd like to welcome two people who may have had longer days than the majority of us in the room. Our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. Tiffany Holman-Bess, and our Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, Dr. Kevin Beckner, spent all of this week till now, until just a couple hours ago, in another state, learning and gathering information on how to make Parkway even better. And then they flew here and got here probably after our meeting began, right? And they're still awake and ready to present to us about Project.
We're ready to go. Let's talk some Project Parkway, President Todd. We got a lot to do.
And they also, when we had President's Day off, they were actually busy learning. So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
had 3 busy days.
We have to learn how to help our kids and provide safety nets so our kids don't fall through the cracks. So that's what we were doing. Yeah, I'm so pleased tonight to have our Project Parkway work session. I know many of you mentioned your participation at the State of the District, and we certainly appreciate that. Here we have our visual of the year-and-a-half journey we've been on through Project Parkway 3.0. Our first step in that process was generating our comprehensive school improvement plan for this year, which we did by identifying belonging, achievement, and relevance, and some objectives around each of those that we've been working on this year. Our second part was creating our new vision, which we had in our old mission, vision, learning principles document, but certainly needed a refresh, and we completed that with our students that we identify our community wants our students to be critical thinkers, empowered learners, connected citizens, and resilient individuals, that when they achieve our mission, that's really what that more concretely looks like. Then we're now in this final stretch of Project Parkway 3.0, where we're focused on developing our new 5-year plan. So to do that, this is just a general template of how you do strategic planning work. And you start by discovering, asking, and observing questions. And Dr. Holman-Bess will walk us through how we did that. We then have to take that information and synthesize it and boil that down. And that's that distill phase, is where we say, okay, we gathered a ton of information. What does this mean? And how do we get more clear? That's the point where we are right now. And we've begun, now that we've identified some of the things our community is saying, this is where we think are some big areas where we need to pay attention to. we then need to say, okay, if those are the big areas, what do we do in those areas? And how do we identify next steps and what we actually want to accomplish in those areas? And that's that green section of ideating. And that's the part where we're starting right now. And then once you get lots of information about possible things we could do and steps, you have to actually narrow that down to create your plan. And so we are right in the middle of that process right now. And Dr. Holman Best is going to talk through our focus groups, the information we gather in the observation phase, and share a little bit about where we are.
Good evening, everyone. So as you know, we conducted focus groups in the fall. We had about 900 participants across staff, students, and community members. Nearly 10% of the participants were certified staff. We did also include our support staff in the conversations that we were having in focus groups. And then our community focus groups were also led by Project Parkway steering committee members as well as some of our board members. So just keeping in mind what that was, we did ask them a total of 5 questions during that. Then we launched State of the District. We did a thought exchange at the end of the night. And so thought exchange, as you know, is a way where we can rate thoughts. We also can now ask a survey question. And so at the end of that night, we really wanted to know, based on what you learned at the State of the District, what should we do more of and what should we do less of? And so I want to give you a little bit of perspective of what the community told us. We had 138 participants with 112 thoughts and nearly 1,800 ratings. We had a great distribution in terms of community members and internal folks that completed the thought exchange that night. The majority of people strongly agreed that the event was informative, and 93% of the folks that were there were glad that they attended. As many of you noted in your comments, the highlight of the evening, and rightfully so, was our students. And so people were very excited, not just about the performances, but if you went into the classrooms where students were participating in conversations and dialogue with the community and with their teachers and administrators, you learned their story. And that was the power of the night, right? To share the personal experience stories of what's happening in our schools. Also, just wanting to make sure that we update, keep updating the community on the students, but then also drawing attention to the mental health supports that our students need, and then really pushing on us around our equitable practices. And so the community also did tell us that they would like more updates a little more frequently. And I think they are also wanting to see our kids more often. And then we really kind of look at 4.0 in terms of the rating, because then we have thoughts that are repeated, but they're a little bit more diluted in the data. And I actually really need to give credit to our communications team who helped us put this data together through the thought exchange. And so that last point, again, just highlighting the need to focus on equity. And so we took all of this information from State of the District and we began to distill. When we distilled that information, we took a look at some data. And so there were, I don't know, maybe close to 50 pages worth of data from State of the District, from community focus groups, laid those side by side across many, many, many different themes. And so here's the work you're going to see steering and our leaders doing as part of that. And from that came the What We Heard document. I'm going to share that with you in one moment. And this slide highlights the 5 themes that came about. Commitment to equity, resource allocation, student well-being, achievement, personalized and real-world connection. Dr. Beckner is going to take us through the next set of slides.
So once we have these, really, they're more topics than they are themes. And I'll name up front, one of the challenges is a lot of the things we heard, and I know Mr. Todd, Ms. Hopper, Ms. Matt Franklin from the board are all part of the steering committee. We discussed this at our last steering committee meeting. Many of the things we heard were, we really like that you care about this, and you're not there yet. So an example would be like, personalization, real-world connection. We've got a lot of good stuff happening around that, but it's not yet accessible to all of our students. Or commitment to equity. We heard a lot that we love that Parkway is committed to equity, yet look at our data. We do not have equitable outcomes for all of our students, so we have a ways to go. So now it becomes looking at the specific areas that our community identified as topics for us and diving into, okay, what do we do next? And that's where we begin to ideate and begin to come up with, okay, so if we said, here's an area where our community told us that we need to pay attention to, what might be some actions? So we've begun that process. We began it this past week with our steering committee. Again, looking through all that information and then beginning to generate, okay, here are things we think this might be. Our leaders did the same. So we are seeing, just kind of posters. Right now we're in this rough poster phase, not yet in we're actually drilling down into the specific actions, but we're trying to surface what are many of those things, whether it be around any of the 5 topics: resource allocation, student well-being, achievement, equity, or personalization, real-world connection. We're trying to identify what those pieces might be. So as we look at our timeline, we've got multiple activities coming up. We've actually coded them by whether it's, hey, we're ideating right now, or once we get a bunch of different ideas, we have to start distilling those down, because we know that if you try to do everything, you will do nothing. Right? You have to really focus on what your actions are. So we're here tonight at the board work session, but we do have our next Project Parkway community meeting coming up on the 4th, and that's going to be an opportunity for our community to look at, here's what's been generated by our steering committee, our leadership so far. What might we be missing? What might be other things that we need to attend to that our community can give input into that? And we're hopeful about what they might say so that we can learn more about potential next steps. We have a board work session next month. Steering committee is going to take all the info we've gathered up till that point and really start to pen to paper what is the plan and how are we going to move forward over the next 5 years. We then will spend time with you board members at the board workshop on April 20th, and we'll spend an extended amount of time really looking at that and making sure that we've nailed down many of the pieces that we need to have. And with the goal being to bring a proposal to you in May. It says tentative because it might be June, depending where we are in that process, but we're going to try to stick to our timeline right now as we begin to really develop, okay, we've identified these areas. Now what do we do? What are the actions? What are the outcomes? What are the objectives? And how do we commit to that over the next 5 years? So with that, we'd be happy to entertain any questions, thoughts, or ideas you might have.
I'll just ask one, hopefully quick question, but when it comes to the board in May, is that going to be like a complete 5-year plan that will come to us for approval?
Correct. It'll include both information like how did we get here, the background, all the documents. We just showed a picture of the documents, but I know being on the steering committee, you saw there's many, many pages of lots of comments and great ideas from our community. It'll include all that background information. It'll include the goals and objectives. And each strategic plan has to have what are the big goals in this plan, and then how will we know if we're making progress on those goals, along with some key actions that we'd like to see over the next 5 years. Yep.
I just think that we just remind our audience, we're talking about Project Parkway 3.0, right? So that this is the 3rd generation, something that was started 2008, 9, before me. And it's been carried through. And I think Tiffany and I were at a conference last week. Tiffany's been going to a lot of conferences. And we heard a lot about.
Dang.
No, that's good. But we heard a lot about how important strategic plan is. So I think she heard some. I heard some sessions, and I think the one good thing about Parkway, even though we heard issues tonight about we need to improve our theater and we got issues, but we last year our community supported us with a wonderful support for a bond and work that has to be done. Certainly more to be done. But I think we have a great opportunity to really focus on students in this plan and their future, which, we think about our own mission statement now. We talk about that future, which is changing, and it's changing so rapidly these days. So our plan will have a 5-year plan. We also know it's got to be flexible. And we know that what we learned from our 2 first generations is that in the midst of all this, there may be some things that we have to speed up and some things we might even have to let go of that we thought was important. I don't know if you want to address that. The 2 of you have been engaged in a lot of that discussion.
No, I think one of the things we're committed to in this plan is making sure that we update our CSIP every single year. So we've talked about, we've just sort of internally called it, like, we're going to have Project Parkway 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, rather than the 2 previous iterations where it was Project Parkway 2.0, and that's what we're living under still today. And now we know, we lived through a whole pandemic between the time that was written and where we are now. And that'll be a yearly process where we have to be a little bit flexible in that, knowing what are the long-term goals, but being willing to take different paths to get there. Did I say anything on that?
You got it. It's good.
I really appreciate that. And to Dr. Marty's point too, if we look at it each year, then you can be flexible and adjust it. Do you anticipate doing like a timeline or showing what will happen in each of those 5 years? And that'll be
part of what comes to you.
part of what we get. Okay, good. Thank you.
And I'll just say, I know Debbie probably agrees, and Tiffany probably agrees watching this remotely, but I appreciate being on the steering committee and seeing the kind of the behind-the-scenes inner workings of how we've gotten here this last year and a half. So kudos to you and all your team that has done all the heavy lifting getting us to this point. So thank you.
Team effort's the right thing.
Well, and I think we can appreciate that we're bringing in the public to this process, which I think is so important. So having these meetings, Project Parkway meetings, State of District addresses, things of that nature, where we're getting public input as well as not just a top-down approach.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Let's see, we have no special meeting tonight, so may I have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all very much for attending.